Well, more good weather this week brought more progress. We're excited to be sitting on the second floor. So the idea of the passive solar house, in the wintertime, we really want that house to be flooded with sunlight. So that second story is almost solid windows all the way across. The issue came when we looked at the spacing. We wanted to make sure we had enough spacing between each window that the integrity of the column of concrete was good enough to support the structure above it. And so we had to go back and forth on window size and window spacing until we got it just perfect enough. And we're going to have approximately 12-inch concrete pillars between each window. So we're going to put extra rebar in those spaces and above them for the header sections of the windows. But it looks great and it fits perfectly. I can't wait to get those windows in there. So I want to talk a little bit about the buck block that we use for the doors and the windows. If you remember from a previous video, the builder had a lot of bracing around here. He had bracing on the inside and on the outside, and then cross beams to hold this back because the pressure of that concrete is immense. And in fact, any little crack or crevice, you're going to see concrete trying to find its way out of there. But this buck block is only styrofoam. So in this area, if you brace the outsides, it can actually bow out in the middle or break in the middle. Now, the ideal structure around this to hold it back and keep it flat would be 2x12s all the way around. But that can get really pricey when you're using those for forms, especially with lumber prices right now. And so the builder offered a more economical option of actually using 2x4s. But the way he did it was he spaced those 2x4s far enough in that it didn't bow in the middle, because if you put it too far out, it can bow in the middle, but if you put it too far in, it could actually fold out from the outsides. So if you're looking at an economical option, you can use 2x4s, but you also assume the risk that you may have a little bit of movement in these. And I'll actually show you in this next window. There is just a slight bit of bowing right here. It's probably hard to see on the camera, but those 2x4s could have come slightly in to prevent that. Now, that's not an unfixable issue. You can actually shave that styrofoam off and make a nice flat surface, and you can also shim. You won't see that, and of course it'll all be sealed properly when you get the window in there, because the window actually goes on this outside portion where the bracing was. So just a food for thought if you want to save money on the bracing. Well, welcome to the second floor and our beautiful view of the pond, which isn't quite full yet, but it soon will be. I want to say something now about supply issues. You've seen about it in the news, but it really hits home when you're building a house or building anything. You know, weather's a given. You'll get delays from that. But when you don't have the part or the parts, like the buck block for these windows, you're really in a pinch. And that's where a good, experienced builder comes in. He has the experience and the clout and the knowledge to go to the supplier and say, this is what I ordered and this is what I need. If they make a mistake, he or she knows it, and he's got a relationship with them, and he can get things done fast. These buck blocks were short ordered on us, and we didn't know it until they put the structure up. He went into them, and they're actually going to overnight these things at their expense because they made the mistake. And that's what's great about having a professional on your side. They can deal with these issues, and they can deal with it quickly and keep you on track. So let's talk about how the first pour ties into the second pour. If you go down here, if you remember from previously, we talked about these plastic PVC rings that actually held the rebar together or joined the rebar at the very bottom of this house where the footer is. Well, here you can clearly see it and how it works. If that little ring there is there and the rebar is standing up, when the concrete's poured and it sloshes around, these rebar do not come apart. And that's the purpose of those. So they tie in here and the second rebar comes up. Now I'm showing you here just so you can get the visual, but in the rest of the wall, this rebar would go all the way to the top. Obviously there's a window here, so it's only a 2-foot section, but the rest of it goes all the way to the top. I think I mentioned down there, they're going to double up rebar here in these concrete columns, and just above me, they've actually tripled the rebar up top there, and that's kind of a header section that's going to support the weight of the rafters coming down from the roof. Well, just like on the basement section, they have secured the walls with bracing that's adjustable. These braces are slightly different though. They screw into the floor, and this bar, this entire bar turns to lengthen it or shorten it. So as they were putting it on, they were throwing some grease and stuff on there to make sure that they turned before they installed them. But that allows you, it's called a plumb jack, and it allows you to get these walls perfectly plumb, and it goes all around. The other thing you notice from the build before were the seams that run from the bottom to the top. Those are covered up temporarily so that obviously that's a weak point, so they really reinforce those seams. There's a seam here, there's a seam there, and of course one on the opposite wall. And then we have the door frame there that will be full of buck block, and once that is set, the bracing is all set, I think we'll be ready for the pour. Well, I'm standing where the entrance will be in the future, but right now I'm just happy to have a second floor, and hopefully we'll get a pour soon. Well, thanks to all our subscribers out there and the comments you leave. We love those comments, and if you haven't joined us yet, please do so. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.